Okay, so the setup is a bit ad hoc, and I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous that it's not going to hold. Yeah. But it seems to be... it's making all the right colours and flashes. We will see. And now I just have to wait for Lee David Miller to call me. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
I was just explaining to our listeners what I'm doing. I think the FaceTime thing might be because I'm using a second SIM.
So you've switched off the data on your British number.
Yes, but that shouldn't stop you FaceTiming me on the... I guess you'd need to know the... Although you could just use my... Anyway. We should have tested... Sorry, go on.
I think data only works on one SIM plan at a time, so if you flick from one to the other.
Well, yes.
So exciting.
I don't know about those things. The whole dual SIM world is entirely new to me.
So is this an eSIM that you've gone with?
Well, I had an eSIM, and so what I've got now is a physical SIM, which speaks a different language.
So your British SIM is an eSIM, and your Italian SIM is... a physical SIM. Thank you, Jeffrey, for a little...
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, that's exactly right. And what is interesting about that is that it's a little bit harder to install technological things when you don't know the language.
You do know the language, though. Your language is excellent.
It's really specific language. I know, but not in that. I don't. I have no experience in fixing laundries, doing the dishes, or installing electronic. I know, not electronic sims, physical sims in a phone.
Physical sims.
So yes, and I don't know what it means to exactly. Anyway, it's not that interesting. But I'm a little bit. But yeah, I was a bit shocked when I realised that I hadn't brought my iPad. I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to record. So, but it seems to be working.
Oh, that's good. We'll keep it nice and short, just in case it all goes nipples skyward, as they say.
Yes, who says that?
I don't know. Somebody who doesn't want to say tits up, which basically describes Britain today.
Really?
Oh, I know you don't read the news, but man alive, okay, so listeners...
this is not sports news, is it?
It's bordering on sports news, but I will just say, friends, neighbours, countrymen, lend me your ears. It is likely that this episode will drop on Wednesday the 15th of...
No, the week after.
No, wait. I think that this might drop on Wednesday the 15th of March because we are talking about something that is very temporally specific. And it might be that part 2 of last week's conversation jumps over a week.
Don't you think that's going to confuse our listeners? I mean,
I love that, though. I kind of love the idea.
Insult their intelligences.
I think they are very bright and they'll be able to basically follow a sense of shuffle, which is what I'm saying we would do. It's just, it feels...
Do you think the collective IQ of our listenership is higher than most podcasts? Do you think it's in the upper quartile, the upper 50th? No, I don't know how to say that now.
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not interested in being involved in competition in that way. I'm sure all podcasts have people who are important to them. All I know is that our UFLs and our VFLs are awesome. That's the end.
Great. Okay. Good. I reckon
But
they're definitely in the top. I reckon they're
you have to.
average.
Oh my God, you're such a fucking sportsman. Everything has to be a competition. Our listeners will take home the gold, whereas Joe Rogan's, they're just bronze listeners. Fuck them.
I don't reckon they'd make the podium. If any of our faithful or unfaithful listeners actually listen to Joe Rogan, we've got a problem, don't we? There's some kind of leakage between those two podcasts. I wouldn't have thought that if you'd drawn some kind of diagram.
Listen, the Venn diagram of people's ears are impossible to fathom. I think we listen to what we listen to, and we should embrace them with a lack of judgment. And I'm saying that because
You're
next
about to...
hour of conversation is going to be me in full on judge.
Really? So I do not know. I do not know what has befallen the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
You sent a text to Bob early, and maybe to me as well, earlier on in the week saying, "What's going on with Gary Lineker?"
Oh yeah, because yes, I saw as I went. Well, I could tell you about my trip to try and get to this godforsaken country, but it all went nipples skyward. And
oh, okay, no, pause. Gary can wait. Tell us about the trip.
Well, I was, of course, booked to take a train, and one train got cancelled. And then so I, in a hurry, rebooked everything in order to go the following day. And then the next day, another train was cancelled, a different one, this time from Paris to Milan. And I was running out of ways to get to Italy for to get me to the church on time. And and so I spent an outrageous quantity of money on a very last-minute flight. I flew from Birmingham to Rome. But the best part of that, and I still feel a little bit like, but was the best part of that was that I got up on very early on Friday morning and walked out into a blizzard. It had been snow. It was 5:15, and it really was blizzard conditions, and it was touch and go. And we spent 4 hours on the tarmac.
Yeah, snow. It's a funny thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it was. It was curious, the 3-hour moment after you've been on the tarmac for 3 hours, because it means that they can open the shopping cart and and they have to give you some drink or something, like you have to give you water. And everyone clapped. Like, and I was thinking, wow, that's a low, that's a bar, really low bar. Yeah, woo, we can buy a Kit Kat.
So you got your Kit Kat. But you got to Rome, more importantly.
I got to Rome and then had to prop up a bar while waiting for Lil to finish work. And so I was sent to a little craft beer shop, which is just close to where Lil's apartment is. And then I was reading and working and drinking beer. And I was... What's that saying? Two something to the
Three
breeze.
sheets to the wind?
3 sheets to the wind. I thought it was 2, but I might have been 3. In fact, it might have been 4.
I was 2 dooners to the gale.
All our sailing listeners will be just like rolling their eyes in embarrassment. I could get such a common saying, completely and utterly wrong. I'm sorry, all 3 of you.
So there you are, 3 sheets to the wind, 1 sheet for each of our sailors. And then the beauteous Lil, did she swoop in and smooch your face off in a bar, or take you for pizza?
No, we went to. She had a beer. She had a half, and I didn't, because that would have made me 3.5 sheets to the wind. And,
your fingers had stopped working at this point.
I actually realised I was still answering emails, which is certainly dangerous. Dangerous terrain. But I'd had a lovely conversation with the owner, bartender, who had he'd finally figured out who I was, because he figured out who Lil was, and then it was quite a hilarious conversation, and then we went to a trattoria, just a little local thing, and had some very, very simple, homemade food.
Yeah,
and a great day in Rome yesterday, Saturday. So it just sunny, and it was about 19 degrees. So I feel like spring has sprung for me.
Yeah, I mean, it will help if you move towards the equator. It will feel springier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds great. And you're there, but now you're no longer in Rome because you then moved across the land to where?
I took a ferry from Civitavecchia, which is the port of Rome, which is about an hour out of Rome, and then a ferry last night to Olbia in Sardinia, and now I'm in Sassari in Sardinia, which is northwest Sardinia. And I start work tomorrow.
Wow. Oh, gosh, that's beautiful.
I really a lot of chocolate today, just breakfast, lunch. Yeah, a lot of chocolate featured in various meals.
I mean, was it just like raw chocolate, or as in?
No, chocolate and pastries.
Ah, right. Then that doesn't count. Everybody knows if you encase chocolate in fat and flour, it's basically a
bread.
Fruit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
I like
definitely
that
one
you
of your
were
five a day.
For sure. I'm glad that you were sending emails while you were slightly half cut on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did the same thing.
Really?
I wrote an email whilst I was 2 martinis in.
You had more than one martini.
I did.
Hang on, that's homemade martinis.
Yes.
We're actually talking. We're ending up a podcast that started off about midlifing, became about everything, and then is turning into basically things we drink.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also things that we did while we were drinking. I received an email from somebody that I read when I was at the end of my first martini, and it frustrated me. So I made a second martini, and while I was drinking the second martini, I wrote a response, and I was about to send it, and then I thought, I'll just reread that first email, and I'm so glad I did.
Really?
My martini goggles had completely
you were in lizard martini brain.
I was like, listen, you are a big poop head, and this is the reason why your head is made of poop. I send you my hatred in this email for poopy head. And then I realised they hadn't said what I thought they'd said, and their question was entirely legitimate and appropriate, and I responded accordingly.
I like that your powers of comprehension seem to get worse after one and then better after two. It's like you'd come full circle. The wheel hath turned for you, right?
I drank myself sober. Totally not true. Totally not true. I actually just read the email as opposed to reading the first line and the last line because, I figured the thing in the middle that was important.
That's how people read emails. I like the idea with emails, though, that, generally with things online is that we send emails as if people are going to read them in a way that we don't read their emails.
Oh, I sweat over my emails and I worry so much about tone, and then I read them as if they were written with a thumb while somebody is cycling downhill at speed and trying to avoid rabbits.
Sent from my iPhone with one thumb while cycling down a hill. Apologies for any grammatical mistakes.
Speaking of wildlife...
Gary Lineker.
No, before Gary Lineker. Although after Ari Ginnickler. Jeffrey was a hero yesterday morning.
Oh, that
or
is news.
Not a hero, depending who you are. Jeffrey and I were walking down the high street, which has been closed since late January because of gas works. So it's a very quiet
the entire high street.
Yeah,
not to foot traffic, obviously.
Not to foot traffic, no. So me and Jeff wandering down the hill on one of his many sniffaris, and he sees in the distance a cat. And he turned to me and he went, Lee, there's a cat over there. And I went, yes, Jeffrey, we've had a conversation about cats. Cats are our friends, remember? And he said, yes, I know cats are our friends. But I think that cat is a naughty cat. It seems to be trying to kill a pigeon.
Did he save a pigeon?
He ran towards the cat and said, listen, cat, get away from that pigeon. That pigeon has done nothing to you. And the cat ran away underneath the wheels of a car. Stationary, don't worry. The cat was fine. Fear not. This is not a sad story. And there was a very unhappy pigeon that had been effectively scalped. So from the crown of its head down its back, it had the skin peeled off, and it was looking very sad for itself. So Jeffrey suggested to me, that we should take it home, because I tried to walk away and I went, okay, we've rescued the bird, now let's carry on our walk. And he went, no. There is a bird in distress, Lee. We can't just leave it. And so he sat down by the bird.
He did not.
Until I did something useful.
And
so I had to go back towards the bird, and then I took off my woolly hat. I scooped the bird up. There was a little bit of chasing in the interim, and I deposited the pigeon inside my woolly hat, which seemed to calm it significantly. It didn't calm me because now there is a bird pooping and bleeding into my hat. And this is lamb's wool, so this is a nice hat.
Yeah, wow. Wow, talk about taking one for the natural world.
Yeah, well, Jeff was not for moving, and as soon as the pigeon went into the hat, Jeff was like, "Excellent, wonderful, good news, off we go." So we carried on his walk, and I got home, and I thought, I don't know what to do with this very, very distressed bird. I thought, I can't just leave it in the garden. That feels cruel because it might just die.
It'll get picked off by cats as well.
Not in our garden, because our garden is like cat-proof. Mostly because there's a dog who lives in it and doesn't really encourage cats to be in there. So I put the pigeon in the ensuite of the bedroom that you used to stop in.
Right.
I made a little nest for it out of a towel. I put some seeds down. I put a bowl of water. And for 24 hours, we had animal hospital where Chicken the pigeon, because the pigeon's name is Chicken, we have decided. Chicken the pigeon lived for a day inside of our shower in the spare room. Then this morning, with the advice of Bob's sister, who also rehomes and rehabilitates pigeons, she said it's fine to let it out now and see what happens. So out it went, and it is currently sitting on a drain pipe in the garden going, I think I preferred it inside. It wasn't raining there.
So it's still sitting there. It hasn't flown off.
No. It's because it's got seeds and it's quite a juvenile bird. So we have potentially got a pet pigeon.
Did I ever tell you, we're in danger here of turning this into a two-parter, and then, because we're not getting to the focus of the... Did I tell, maybe I have told you the story, and maybe even told it on the podcast, about the cat at my uncle's and my father, and the situation with the cat that had been run over by a car?
No, I do not believe this is a story we have heard.
Yeah, so the way I remember it, I was very young, it might have even been pre-me, and they had a cat, my aunt and uncle, and the cat got knocked over hit by a car, and wasn't too good. Was in a pretty, as they'd say in New Zealand, ropey condition. Or maybe they say that here.
Yeah.
And my father was staying, or he came to visit, and was asking, and his brother, his name's Rod, was saying, Ian, what are we gonna? What's the best thing to do? And Dad looked at the cat and said, I think we should just basically put it out of its misery. And so they took the cat out the back, right up to the back, and Dad had a shovel, and he was basically. Yeah, he was going to just knock it over their head. And so he's got the shovel. The way Rod used to tell the story was that Dad's got the shovel in the air, about to swing it down. And Rod, who's a physician, he's seen as he's seen various states of humankind, you might say. And he said no. And so he stopped Dad hitting this cat, whose name I can't remember, putting it out of its misery. And the cat survived, but had serious brain injuries, and was always just a little bit not quite right. And so I have a fantastic picture of this cat with a bird sitting on its back. They had a pet budgie or whatever. And so it just never quite knew what to do with this bird, but it certainly didn't know to attack it. So it sort of lost something, but it lived for years and years and years. So my father, the vet, was proved wrong, or something like that.
I love that there was a cat that lived happily with a bird. Jeffrey the Dalmatian. No, he likes birds. Yeah, he's a bird fancier. Who knew?
What a fine dog. What a fine dog. But Jeffrey's name is not Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker hasn't been fired, has he?
No, he hasn't been fired, but you probably don't know that Match of the Day, which usually runs for an hour, ran for 20 minutes.
I do know that.
It ran for 20 minutes yesterday.
Okay, we need to stop though, because there are going to be people who are listening to this who have no idea who Gary Lineker is.
Okay, so going back in time, Gary Lineker in the 1980s was a footballer. I think is he from Leicester originally? I think so. He's from the
certainly
Midlands
played
somewhere.
for Leicester. Yeah,
there we go. Let's say he's that. And he famously scored 3 goals against Poland in a World Cup in the 1980s. I know him mostly as a man who advertised Walker's crisps on television, salt and Lineker flavour.
Oh, was there really? Did they?
I love that. I just love the game of salt and Lineker flavour.
Walker's crisps are like they're like the shittiest, cheapest. Everybody's crisps.
How dare you? Seabrook are worse than Walker's. Walker's are good. They're like Lay's. To
they're
our
exactly
international
like Lay's. In fact, the kind of colouring is exactly the same. Yeah,
I think it's the same company. Anyway, what some of our international listeners might think of as chips, we would call crisps here in the UK. He advertised crisps on the back of his waning football career, and then he became a pundit. For a pundit. No, a pundit.
A pundit.
A bandit. He became a pundit for the BBC. He became a panda for the BBC's football reporting, and has anchored a television show, a very long-standing television show called Match of the Day here in the UK.
And you're going to insert the music right here.
Probably. Anyway, so he is considered to be now an elder statesman of sports reportage.
He totally is, isn't he? It's hilarious how he's like.
I think he might be one of the highest paid celebrities on the BBC's books.
He is the highest paid.
But he doesn't technically work for the BBC in the sense that he's
contracted to them. Yeah, no, he's basically a freelancer, isn't he?
Yeah, that's it. He's a freelancer. That's right. The rules of impartiality in relationship to the BBC, as I understand them, is that if you work for a news or current affairs programme, you are not expected to articulate your personal opinion through social media or
editorializing.
Yeah, because you are required to be impartial. However, there are many BBC personalities, which is to say people who work for the BBC in a similar capacity to Gary Lineker, who regularly have articulated their political position. There has been a long history of people who tend to be fairly right-leaning in their perspectives, who have effectively articulated their perspective and their position whilst working for the BBC, who have not been censured. What becomes interesting is that Gary Lineker has come out on the side of, well, one can only really say humanity, but apparently that's not something we should do.
You know, he was anti-Brexit, and he does tend towards the left, doesn't he?
He does tend towards the left, yeah. And he effectively, you know, he made this assertion based upon the recent immigration bill that is going through the UK Parliament at the moment, which is probably 50-50 chance that it breaks international human rights laws. Take a moment.
What does that mean, 50-50 chance? What does that mean in that context?
It means that it looks very likely that it will break international law, but it would actually need to go in front of...
It depends on what passes, what aspects of it pass.
I think what worries me is, and I don't think I'm alone in this at all, the sense that the noise is taking us away from the conversation about the immigration bill, and that we're now worried about the BBC, where we really should be worried about the fact that there's this raft. Oh God, seems like a massively inappropriate choice of words,
Metaphor.
given that I'm talking about but this raft of measures that are designed to dehumanize a group of people who are in the most extreme cases of anxiety and stress, that have been forced to flee their homeland. And it's this sense of, yes, but why would they need to leave France if if they're safe there? Why would they need to come here? And I saw a wonderful woman explaining it to an MP, saying, well, I think it's probably to do with the fact that 84% of refugees won't ever get further than the country next door to the one that they've left. So let's see it as a relatively small number of people who are going beyond that. And most people do settle in the first safe country that they can find. And then if they're trying to get across the channel, it's probably because of some kind of familial tie.
Yeah,
and
almost.
She said something beautiful. Or because they are English speakers as a result of colonial narratives. And I just thought, oh, of course. Anyway.
I mean, I don't mean you and I are just we are poorly equipped for most of these conversations, but we are.
Ignorant.
No, and I just but the thing, it's in a way, it's an appalling thing not to have a deeper understanding of questions to do with immigration. Not least because thinking this for years, really, and reading about it for years, which is it is and will be the issue of our time. Like, you cannot, because not least because of climate change, that the basically the middle of the planet's getting hotter, so people are running north and south of the equator. Like, people are being pushed further and further north. So there's just this mass movement of human beings, unlike there's ever been such a mass movement of human beings. So unless we're really trying to find ways to talk about it and think through the implications, and as you say, the implications of a powerfully colonial history, France included, Portugal included, Spain included, that it's really we just end up at this kind of thing, which is really clever on the part of the Tories, which is it's basically a distraction. They're using the BBC as the situation there as a distraction from the real thing, which is about the creation of policy.
Yeah.
And that just it really gets my goat. Really gets my goat.
This whole thing unveils my ignorance in a way that is, as you say, frightening, because it's easier for me to get lost in the minutiae of a conversation about the importance of an institution like the BBC and what are these conversations going to do in relationship to...
Turn our heads to that, eh?
Yeah. And I can feel my gaze being pulled away from the thing that I should be thinking about, which is this attack on small boats.
Yeah.
And it's the language of the attack on small boats. And Bob and I were talking about it yesterday. It's like, are they planning on sinking them?
Oh, because
of course they're not. But the rhetoric is like, oh my God, it sounds like battleships. It's awful.
Yeah. No, I still, it's not like it's. I don't know how to say this really, which is to say, how is it that you develop some kind of policy as a country which somehow sets some limits to immigration? Because the implication, if you don't, is that anyone can come anytime and stay, which of course is untenable. Right? That's not a policy, and so but then you get the other, which swings all the way. Although I'd tend towards that anyway, politically or personally or maybe humanly. But there is a tricky, messy line there in the middle of it all, which is.
Yeah, I am. Oh, there's a Jeff. I am entirely unprepared and under-resourced to enter into this conversation. So I would like to say, genuinely, If we have any midlifing listeners who can shed light onto the complexity, and maybe you work in international policy or international law, because, you know, I have no idea who's or immigration, I have no idea who listens to us. But seriously, info@midlifing.net. Give us a shout, because I would love to have somebody talk to me about this.